Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here in about 2 minutes. So, 2-minute warning. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is, looks like 12:16. I'd like to call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District Health Advisory Council to order. Let the record show that a quorum of SHAC members are present today. This meeting is in compliance with Section 28.004 of the Texas Education Code and applicable board policy. The council's meeting today will address only the topics on the agenda. No other topics will be discussed during the meeting. SHAC meetings are open to the public, and guests wishing to address the SHAC may do so by emailing the SHAC committee at shac@neisd.net. Any person that causes disruption during the meeting will be asked to leave. Thank you for your cooperation.
Please remember, health-related issues can sometimes generate passionate discussions with very different viewpoints. Remain calm and respectful throughout the process. Listen carefully with an open mind to identify critical facts and statistics that should be considered in decision-making, rather than over-relying on opinions and emotions. Keep NEISD students' health as your top priority to help discussions stay on track. The first item on today's agenda is...
We're going to review corrections if needed and vote for the approval of the October 15th, 2025 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Awesome. Michelle, can you confirm or nor deny if you were here? All right. Maybe she wasn't here. We just thought she was here. She was here. Okay. All right. So we're going to cross her off on the members not in attendance. Any other corrections? All right, we have a motion to approve with the one correction. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hands. Okay, thank you. All those opposed, nay, and raise your hand. The ayes have it. Great, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the School Nutrition Services presentation. Ms. Sharon Lawson, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. So today I'm going to be going through some information about the school nutrition department, and I'm going to kind of move to this direction so I can see you guys as I'm presenting. The school nutrition department is basically what you may think of as a food services department for the school district. And so we administer all of the cafeterias at all of the campuses. as well as some other types of feeding programs that I'll touch on. But today, because I know you're probably very familiar from your own time in school and your children's time in school, you know the basics of, the cafeteria and the meal program. So I'm going to touch on a few things that you may not be aware of that go on in school nutrition and in NEISD. I chose this photo on the slide just to feature one of the meals that we're very well known for in NEISD, which is the cheese enchiladas. And if you aren't familiar with it, I will say that these are world famous because actually we had a school district in Sweden that used our recipe and prepared them for their students as a fun cultural activity to expose their students to a different type of cuisine. And so we say, well, our recipe has been all around the world, and it was well liked even in Sweden. But I am not a San Antonio native, and so I found this also to be very interesting how so many people that grew up in San Antonio in all school districts around the city have a shared memory of eating cheese enchiladas in school from about the 1960s forward. And so it's a generational memory that this city shares. And so I just find it fascinating, and it's really nice to be a part of that. But also within this tray, I just wanted to let you know that you're seeing a lot of scratch cooking that's going on with the items that are prepared. You may have a notion in your mind that a lot of the food is processed or is already prepared and we're just heating it up. But on this tray, you're seeing, beans cooked from scratch, from the dry beans, rice made from scratch. The enchiladas are hand rolled. All of the sauce, the chili is made from raw ingredients. And then, of course, the fresh produce and milk. But also just the impact that we have on the local economy with the dollars that we spend on meals. On this tray alone is local ground beef, local tortillas, local spices, local produce, and local milk. So we're also making an impact on the vendors that we have in Texas and in our city. We have a very, very dedicated team at every campus. And if you've had the opportunity to eat with your child, you've been able to see the impact that they can have on students because they see every student every day. They're the only staff in a school that have that ability. And here I just featured two teams, but they're really representing all of our staff. And you can see, the Eisenhower staff is showing off. You may not be able to see it, but they're 100 on their health inspection. We have a great track record with sanitation and our health inspections. Every cafeteria gets inspected twice a year, and that's a state mandate. And so they're getting inspected more often than restaurants, and their scores are always higher. The other team is our Tejeda team, and they're showing off a smoothie that we were featuring at that point, and they were just so proud to be doing something new that the students were excited about. And every day in NEISD, we do approximately 12,000 breakfasts, 36,000 lunches, and 2,000 after-school meals. So over a course of a year, it's over 9 million meals that they're preparing and serving. And so we're very proud of the work that they do. But things, like I said, that you may not be aware of that go on are we're available for nutrition education upon campus request. You can see a photo in the top right of our chef, and he's participating in a career fair at a campus. But we can also come and do other topics for teachers and classes. We also work with our campus gardens, and so you can see the student that's showing off some of the beautiful produce that they've grown. And then in the middle, our team at Encino Park was showing off that they were actually serving the produce grown in the school garden. And so we can partner with the garden to do a harvest, and the kids can actually get to try it. Because not every student gets to participate in the garden at times. Sometimes it's just certain classes that are doing it, but then every student can have a chance to try what was grown. So that's a lot of fun, and that usually happens in the spring, if you can imagine, with the growing cycle. So if your campus is interested in something like that and they have a garden, we'd love to help. And then in the bottom right corner, these are some students that were just willing to volunteer to try chicken wings and to give their feedback. And so we try to work with our students to find out what they like, what they're looking for, because they're the customers and they're who we're trying to please. And so we'll do small feedback groups like this example. And then at the end, I'll show you some pictures from our taste test event that we did, that we shared a flyer with you guys last meeting to talk about how that went. This is another program that most people are not aware of, our summer program. And these are just some examples of how we serve meals in the summer. On the bottom left are a group of athletes. And so we partner with our summer camps that our sports coaches are doing to serve them breakfast after their workouts, just to make sure that they're ready and fueled so that they can perform their best. And the center photo is at a public library. We partner with our public libraries to serve a free lunch to any child who comes. And this is a great way to not only feed kids, but to give them an activity, a safe place to be, and air conditioning, honestly, in the summertime, to just give them a little break from the heat. The most innovative way that we do meals in the summer is through our bus. And I included a picture of it. So as you can see, it looks like a regular school bus in a lot of ways. It's recognizable as a school bus, but it's definitely different with the graphics. And so we have two of them actually, and you can see a picture of students sitting in the bus, eating at an apartment complex. And we take these buses around the community. They have set routes, so they're at the same place at the same time every day serving lunch. And it means a lot to these kids because they don't necessarily have a meal site that's easy for them to access. I was excited Miss Cox got to come, and she got to see the bus in the past. So when we get to the summer, you'll see the route, and we would love to see you guys show up if you're ever interested in participating. But behind the scenes, the other big things that are most misunderstood about our department is that we're actually not funded by the district budget. We're a separate business, a separate entity. We do work under NEISD, but we're required to be self-supporting, and we actually pay NEISD for the services that they provide, such as payroll, human resources, utilities, rent, basically. And so we're really cost conscious, and we have to be aware of the money that we're going to receive for the meals. And on that note, we don't get paid based on attendance like the rest of the school does. We only get reimbursed when a student actually takes a meal. And so that's why it's so important that students actually participate and come and eat in the cafeteria, because that's the only way we receive funding. So we don't receive it just because they showed up at school. And so if our meals are not meeting the students' needs, or they're not interested in eating our meals, we're not able to generate the revenue that we need to operate. We also have a program at 45 campuses where we feed all students at no cost. And this is called CEP. And many of our campuses are on this program. Obviously, that's about 2/3 of the district. But this is not only a great thing for the students, that they get meals for free, but it's also great for the parents. They don't have to fill out paperwork to qualify for the benefit. And it's also great for our staff, because the last thing they want is to be haggling with a kid about money, or to be calling a parent trying to collect on their debt. So it takes away a lot of worries and burdens on many groups. We wish we could do this at every campus, but there are eligibility requirements, and not all of our campuses meet that. And all of our meals and snacks, in case you weren't aware, they do have to meet strict criteria from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And so all of our meals that we serve, and any of the extras that you may see us selling, the desserts, the drinks, the chips, they all have to meet or exceed the nutrition requirements. And in our department, we do have resources, like I said, that we can help campuses with education because we do have 3 registered dietitians and 2 chefs. And so we've even helped with culinary classes, STEAM nights, other things that we can do that we can provide an activity for wellness. These are some photos from the taste test event that we had. And it was great. It was so well attended that we didn't have enough food, which was a great problem to have because this was our first try at this type of event that was just open to the community. And so we were hoping for 100, to be honest with you. We were like, this is going to be a success if we have 100 people show up. And we had about 250 show up. And so it was wonderful. We did have some more food that we were able to cook, but some items did run out that we just couldn't produce more at the last minute. But you can see a few photos. We had all ages represented. We had students from all clusters. We had it located at Bradley, which was centrally located, but still, it's quite a drive from certain areas. And we serve them everything from breakfast items to lunch to a carbonated drink that we're looking at called Poppy. And so lots of different things for them to try and give their feedback. And then we gathered all of that feedback, and we're still analyzing it at this point to see how we can add some of these items to the menu in the spring. So thank you if you came. Thank you if you spread the word. We really appreciate it. And then speaking of spreading the word, we do have several social media channels that if you're not already following us and you would be interested in learning more, we post, daily menus. So if you don't want to keep up with what the menu is, every afternoon there's going to be a post telling you what the next day's menu is. And for some families, that just works better for them. But we also talk about fun events that we're doing and give updates. We share recipes because sometimes we have parents who say, my kid will only eat your spaghetti. Please give me the recipe. And so we'll share recipes at times. And I know we send those also to the PTAs so that they can share recipes as well. But that's the end of the presentation on school nutrition. And if it's all right, Mitch, if there's anybody that has a question, I can answer questions. Yes?
Not exactly a question. I just wanted to say my son and I attended, and it was a lot of fun. The pictures look good, but I'm not sure they did it really justice. It was very lively. The Bradley cafeteria was packed, and the food options were exciting. My son liked the chicken shawarma. I liked the falafel. He was super excited to see the ramen line and told his brother about it when he got home. So just
Thank you.
Seemed like really good stuff.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm interested in the CEP program because I felt like did it start during COVID? It started around the COVID time, or was it around far before?
So we piloted it in 2016, but it became available, I think, in 2014.
And is the goal in the future to do it, to continue it? Because it feels like, and I understand what you're saying, you don't want to have the hassle of the money and the hassle of the application, but it seems like, I know it's based on the school zip code and the area, but I know some of those schools, like, for example, Lee, for example, you've got a lot of magnet kids coming from different zip codes that probably could afford those meals. So I do wonder, just in terms of cost cutting and financial for your department, whether it is something that you're planning to endure or you're going to go back to the application.
So it's actually not based on the zip code or census data or anything. It's actually based on the actual students enrolled at the campus. So the students that are enrolled at the campus, we look at how many of those are enrolled in SNAP, Medicaid, and other types of programs, homeless, foster children, and that's what it's based on. So the magnet kids that are coming in are included in all of those calculations. So it's actually based on the kids that are physically there. We would love to continue it as long as we can, but you do have to re-qualify every so often. And so our requalification is coming up for next school year. And so we'll have to analyze the data that we get in the spring to see which campuses can continue it for next year. So it's a continuous look at that every time we have to requalify.
But you who funds that? That comes from your department? That's
Well, it's coming from USDA. They reimburse for the meals that are served, but the amount that we get reimbursed is based on the number of kids who are in those programs. And so there is a tipping point where this campus doesn't have enough kids in these federal aid programs for us to get enough reimbursement to make it feasible for us to do the program at this campus. And that's why it's not district-wide. We just don't have those numbers. And next year, it could look different than it does right now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My question is similar to that as it relates to funding. With the recent cuts to USDA funding globally, how is that impacted? And will it just impact the CEP or your overall nutrition program?
So our funding for this year is already set. It's not changing, the reimbursement rate. We get funding based on the number of meals we serve. So obviously our funding from month to month can vary, but the rate we receive per meal will not change for this school year. But every summer we have to wait for the new rates to see. In general, because the cost of living increases, we generally see an increase from year to year, but sometimes the increase can be slight. And then other years it could be more. So we don't anticipate any major changes in that arena. But what we are seeing is that the cost of ingredients is outpacing the reimbursement rate increases. And so that's where we have to get creative with how we need to price the items that are not on the regular meal, those extra types of items, to make sure that they're covering their costs, how we market our program to increase participation so that more students are participating and we're generating more revenue. And again, those CEP factors, what's our tipping point so that we make sure that we have enough to pay our staff, to pay for all of the supplies. Because not having the meal program is not an option that anyone wants to look at. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Ms. Cox?
I just had a comment. I had the privilege of going out to Camelot to serve lunch. Can you hear me now? Turn on. You think I'd know how to turn the mic on by now? I went out to Camelot to serve lunch, and with Mr. Jimenez, Mr. Jarrett, somehow I got stuck with mashed potatoes, which was a mess by the time. But just the efficiency and it's incredible. I could sit and watch these women and men work all day long. They do such a great job. They have a limited amount of time. They know all the kids. They interact. So it was just really remarkable. So I just want to say thank you very much, because that was a great team, and I know they're great wherever they are. So you kind of take it for granted when your kids go through, but man, they're there working hard every single day for those kids. So I was really privileged to get to go do that.
Yes, thank you. And that is the fun thing sometimes, as you think about the limited amount of time kids have for their meal, and you have to be right. It's not a restaurant where, the food's running a little behind, so you may have to wait a little longer to receive your meal. So, those kids have a schedule and they need to be back in the classroom, and so it's our duty to keep them on track. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I was wondering, is there, anywhere that they say that you monitor the food that's discarded you couldn't do it every day for everywhere, but you think you'd be able to do a statistical sample? Are you aware of programs to try to say, well, how much of this food is actually being eaten by the children? So I volunteer in the classroom, and I'm astonished sometimes at how much gets put in the trash, and it's not a criticism of the food necessarily, but it is an interesting data point to look at.
No, you're right. And we do plate waste studies. Now, I don't know, when you're saying you volunteer in the classroom, if you're talking about... Oh, in the lunchroom. Okay. That's okay, because there are districts that serve breakfast in the classroom, so I wasn't sure if that's what you're saying. But so there are times that we'll stand by the trash can. In fact, every time I go to a school, which is daily, that's one of my favorite places to be, is to see how much of the item did the kids eat, what did they select to eat, because they don't have to take a full meal. Obviously they can take a certain number of items, and that's the hope too, is that if they're not forced to take everything, maybe the things that they are taking, they're more likely to eat them. And the same thing with offering them a variety of choices, is that hopefully they can pick something that they want to eat. And so at simple example is if we offer them 3 fruits, maybe one of those fruits is something that they would like versus just menuing bananas. So there's lots of things that we're doing is, number one, encouraging them not to take things that they don't want to eat because they're just robots and they're just taking what the teacher is saying, don't forget your milk, don't forget your milk. Well, if you're not going to drink milk, please don't take it. So educating the teachers and educating the students on only taking what you plan to eat, and then also hopefully working with our principals to give them time to eat their meal, because that's a challenge as well, is the amount of time they have to eat the meal, because that's their social time as well. And so they struggle with the balance between socializing and eating, and then lunch is over and now it's time to go and you haven't eaten all that you could have. So thank you for your feedback. Yes, there's no requirement from the federal government to monitor student food waste, but it's something that we do because it also informs us on menu options, what the students ate and what they didn't eat based on their waste.
I just find it fascinating. That's a fascinating data point.
Thank you.
You had share tables up there.
Yes.
Are they back again? I know we had to take a little break from it. And
They are back at campus request. So share tables are something that students can place an item that they don't want to eat on a share table, as long as it's an item that is in a sealed package or a whole piece of fruit. So an item that has not been contaminated, and then other students can then take an item off the share table at no cost. So they are back, but the majority of campuses do not have them at this point, because they're also required. Somebody has to be watching what's on the share table so that a student doesn't get sick because somebody put something there that was not appropriate. Or food allergies. Yes. So, okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you guys about school nutrition. I'm going to transition into our next topic, which is about the wellness plan and the school health index, or you may hear us call it the SHI. And the SHI is a survey that's going to help your committees have data to review to help you make goals and recommendations. So in your folder that you got when you signed in, you have some documents. So you have a board policy called FFA Local in your manila folder. This is actually the board policy around wellness. It not only has nutrition information, but it also has information about recess and physical activity. And so this is a very broad document of the goals that the board has set for wellness. However, the next document that you have, which is FFA regulation in the top right corner, it's a longer document. This is what we call the wellness plan. And the wellness plan is where we work to flesh out the board policy into actual strategies and what how the district is going to implement the wellness policy. So we have the wellness policy, FFA local, and then the wellness plan, FFA regulation. FFA regulation has not been updated since 2018, so it is outdated, and we're working on updating it. It requires multiple departments' collaboration, and so I'm just telling you that because when you look at it, if you were to look at the bottom, you would see the date that it was last updated, and it needs updates, and there are things that have changed since this was last updated that we're aware of, and we're working to change. But we've also been trying to work through some procedural questions exactly about who would be updating this and how it would be approved. So it's a work in progress, but we wanted you to have it to know what the last version was. And there were people in this group who helped with this last version. So you have some long-timers in this group, and they helped us with coming up with the goals that you start seeing like on page 9 and moving through the document. They helped us with, they didn't come up with the goals. They helped us come up with the objectives for the goals and then action steps and measures for implementation. So SHAC was involved in the past in this plan. And so we wanted you to have a copy of it and be aware of what the two documents are. And then if and when updates are made, SHAC will be given updated copies of this document. So first off, it's just knowing the terminology and what the documents are and the purpose of the documents. The wellness plan is something that is required by the federal government for the meal program. It wants a wellness plan for the district to help explain how the district is going to carry out its board policy. Any questions about that? Because more what matters to you guys is the SHI, but I did want to talk about this.
I'm just curious how this, a document like this winds up showing up in everyday activity.
Well, there are things in there that regulate like what foods parents can bring into the school for their like a party. There are things in there about recess. There are things in there about the PE requirements. So there are lots of things in here that our administrators use to help make their daily decisions. But there are other things that are more broad, like department specific, not so much campus. So it has a lot of different keys to it, different aspects. And I can speak more to the nutrition parts. And then there are the health and the PE components that are outside of my understanding as much. Katie, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. Okay. Yes.
So I noticed, like on the second goal, or objective 1, it says resources needed software to analyze the menu items. So we have that already in place?
Yes. So we have things that we have done since this was created. And so that's where the updates need to come. Plus, there are laws that have changed around PE and health, I think. There's some updates. So, yes. So we've made progress on our goals, and so we need to be able to create new objectives and new action steps.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So you spoke about the outcomes of the current goals. Will you be sharing those with this committee as well?
I believe so. I mean, I can't speak. I do what I'm invited to do, but I believe that will be part of the update process, is that we'll share where we're at. But I'm a member of the SHAC, just like you guys, and so I'll present on whatever I'm asked to present on.
It would be helpful to know what's been accomplished in this.
I understand. Okay, so we'll move on to the SHI, which are the other documents that you have. You see there's an SHI elementary dashboard and an SHI secondary dashboard. So just to back up, the SHI is the School Health Index, which is a survey that was developed by the CDC, and it measures wellness on a campus. So this is a survey that our principals complete. They generally do this survey every 2 to 3 years. And we've used this data and the information that they answer because they're rating themselves, on how well they've implemented different things in the. There's categories on nutrition. There's categories on health, education, and so there's the survey itself has lots of different categories, even mental health and wellness. The principals are rating themselves on how well they feel like their campus has done in these specific things. And so we don't give you like Bradley Middle School answered this and Eisenhower Middle School answered this. We give you an average for the district so that you can identify without getting anyone in trouble where we have low points and may need to focus on, and where our principals think we're doing very well. And so the dashboard that you have is something that was created by the district to help divide the information into categories that more closely fit with your committees. So if you're on the Fitness and Physical Activity Committee and you turn to the second page of the dashboard document, you'll see questions that pertain to your committee. So these are questions, because the survey is very lengthy, and so this helps divide out so that if you're on Fitness and Physical Activity Committee, you can see these are the things that we should focus on, and if you're on the Nutrition Committee, then you have different questions. But you can see the average score next to the question. And again, the first one was an elementary dashboard. And so you can see of all the elementaries, they averaged to that first question a 2.2. And so you can see as you look through the questions, some of them, their averages are higher and some of them are lower. There's like a 1.5. And so it just gives you an idea, like I said, of things you possibly as a committee may want to look at. There are some things that you as a committee... Oh, did you have something, Mitch? Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for pausing. The numbers that you see on the handouts for the SHI that Ms. Glosson was just talking about, those scores are out of 3.0.
Thank you.
So 2.2 is pretty high. A 1.5, not as high as a 2.2 on a 3-point scale. I didn't know where to write that in or to put it on the slide, so thank you for letting me interrupt.
Mm-hmm. But they could have said 0. They also had the option to say 0, 1, 2, or 3. So they, you may see a 0 at some point.
Just another question on
Yes.
the numbers. So, like, this graph here that you put in, does that mean that, for example, Wetmore with 46 responses in the elementary school category, like, did they answer 46 out of these? Like, what does that mean? Number of people?
Yes, that's my understanding. That graph up there, that's how many people took the survey. Some campuses, it's only the principal that does it and puts it in. But that doesn't mean that principal's not collecting data from the other departments. When it says there's, as you pointed out, 46 people, the principal may have told the campus, hey, go ahead and fill this out so it's a broader representation than just me talking to one or two people or just me what I know. But yes, that's what those numbers represent. How many people answered at that campus? Now, that doesn't tell us who answered what on the questions.
Yes, that's true. And they may have just answered a couple of questions that they were experts in. Like the nurse may answer a few questions and the PE teacher may answer a few questions. But that's good, because one of our goals when we're administering this survey is to get as much input as possible, because there's no one person on the campus that knows everything in this survey. So if you have a collaborative effort on completing the survey, it's much more accurate, because sometimes we've seen in the past answers to questions, like the question may say, is there a tobacco cessation program available for employees? And the person who answers the survey may say no. But we know as a district that there is one available through our benefits department, but whoever happened to answer the survey didn't know that. So the more people that can help with collaborating, and then we did learn also over time that if there is something we already know the answer to because it's a district initiative, we're just going to answer the question and not give it to the principal, because that's a district question versus a campus decision. So, okay, and so as you go through the different committees, you also see that there are some at the end called cross-cutting, and that means that those questions could be for a variety of committees. So it doesn't really just fall in one committee's area of responsibility. So the cross-cutting questions are something that all the committees should also take a chance to look through and see if there's anything in there that you would like to work on. And so between the elementary and the secondary, it is two separate surveys that the CDC developed. And so that's why we have two separate dashboards. Also, just because they also could answer differently from elementary to secondary in the initiatives that they have available for students. But I wanted you to know there are two separate survey tools for the age groups. We haven't done this survey. We're at our 2-year mark. So the data that you're looking at is actually from 2 years ago. So our principals took this survey in the spring of 2024. And my goal is that they will take it again next school year so that the SHAC will have updated information. But this data is still very useful and I feel like very relevant. But it's not something that they do every year because the survey is so lengthy and it does take quite a bit of time. It's not something that we feel like is worth doing yearly. Plus, it takes the SHAC a while to digest the information, find a way to use the information. I don't think you guys could use it yearly. So, any questions about SHI? Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Sharon, for sharing all of that information. It was great. Next on the agenda is we're going to go ahead and adjourn, but before we adjourn, so that the standing committees can hold work sessions, please note that the sessions are not open to the public. So at this point, it is, 1:55, and, I'm sorry, 12:55, thank you. Yeah, 12:55, and we are going to adjourn the SHAC meeting. If you'll please get together in your individual standing committees, we need to go ahead and have you vote on the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary for the different standing committees. All right? Thank you very much.